Hey, gorgeous! Welcome to the Business Mindset Podcast with Holly Wharton, which combines powerful strategies on how to upgrade your business mindset, along with practical business tips to grow your business. This podcast features solo shows with Holly and also interviews with inspiring women entrepreneurs from around the world. Thank you so much for joining us today. And now, here's your host, Holly Wharton.
Hello and welcome to the Business Mindset Podcast with Holly Wharton. Now you may be wondering, what the heck is the Business Mindset Podcast? I was subscribed to the Ready to Bloom podcast. Yes, you are. And in the same way that about a year ago I rebranded from Socially Holistic to Ready to Bloom, I am rebranding everything again. So you may have noticed that I've completely upgraded my website, changed the domain to my name, hollywharton.com, and I have rebranded the podcast as well. So it's now being called the Business Mindset Podcast. It's the same podcast, same interviews, same solo shows, same great guests, same host, me, just a different name. So I'm going to make this short and sweet so that we can get on to the episode, but I wanted to let you know what the heck is going on here. So this is now the Business Mindset Podcast. Same thing as always, different name. So thank you very, very much for tuning in. Thank you for continuing to subscribe to this podcast. And I'm going to turn it over to today's episode, which I'm really, really excited about. So thank you very much. Hello and welcome to the Business Mindset Podcast, episode 143. This is your host, Holly Wharton. I'm here with today's special guest, RM Harrison. RM shows passion-fueled, highly creative, and slightly rebellious solopreneurs how to redefine business on their terms. A clarity junkie, RM is obsessed with self-discovery and helping people uncover the truth about how they serve best. Her work combines coaching and business strategy to help solo business owners achieve sustainable growth so that they can show up fully supported and free to give their best selves to the work they're hired to do. Welcome, RM.
Thank you, Holly. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm excited to have you on the show. So why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about your background and your business journey and how you got to where you are today?
Absolutely. Well, let's see. I've been in business for about 5 years now. I actually just celebrated my 5-year anniversary on March 1st, which is kind of fun. Thank you. And it has been quite the roller coaster. I actually started off doing graphic design and visual communications and focusing on a completely different niche. Mm-hmm. But in that experience, one of the things that I realized is how important it is to kind of know your own strengths and your value and kind of the power that you bring to your work. Mm-hmm. Because otherwise, it won't last very long. Mm-hmm. You'll kind of get tired of the people you work with, you'll grow resentful of them, and maybe even start to burn out because you know that you're just not feeling it, you're just not, your heart's not in it. Mm-hmm. So when I decided to shift focus in my business, it was actually after going through a really long period of burnout, trying to find myself, trying to understand the real value I was bringing to the table, trying to get clear about who my ideal client would be and, what that working relationship should look like and how I was going to use all these skills and all this passion to do something meaningful in business and through my work. So not that long ago, I realized a couple of things. One is that as a solo entrepreneur, there are so many different things you have to figure out for yourself. From, what is your own power? What is the value you're bringing to your niche? What is your niche? And all the way down to things like, who you're going to be serving, what you're going to be offering, how to position yourself, what your sales strategy is going to be. And when you don't have anyone else helping you make these decisions, it gets really, really overwhelming and really, really hard to just move forward without knowing what's really going to work. So that was one thing I realized. The other thing I realized is that if you don't have a clear sense of where you're headed and what it is you're bringing to the table and how you're meant to show up, you're just going to kind of run in circles and you will end up fizzling out really quickly. So understanding this and having gone through that experience myself, I realized that probably the best way I can serve other people with my work and with my skills is to be the support person. And I call it creative co-pilot, but to be the kind of person that supports other solopreneurs in navigating all the shifts and changes and decisions that you have to make to build a successful business. So that's sort of what brought me to where I am now.
Mm.
And what I do for solopreneurs is I help them get really, really clear on how they serve best. And the reason that's important is because when you show up as your best self in a way that's aligned with your values and your personality and your priorities and even your desires, you're able to serve from a place of strength and power. And it's a lot easier to have the motivation you need to show up and do the work that you're hired to do. So I help people get really clear on that. And then I help them to shape their brand, their business model, and everything else sort of around that to be aligned with how they serve best. So typically what ends up happening is the way you work and earn starts to shift. So your business model won't look the same anymore because it's focused now on your strengths.
Yes.
The people you work with might shift because it's focused now on, your priorities and what you value and who you actually like spending time with and working with. Yeah.
And who you can help best, because
who you can help best.
When you're taking on everyone that comes to you, some of those people might not get as great results as others because they're just not the best fit for you.
Yeah. Exactly. And, it's amazing what happens. It's kind of like a relationship, when it's someone that you're really excited and passionate about and you're interested in them and who they are and what their goals are and what they're doing, you just feel inspired and motivated and personally invested in them.
Yes.
So it's not like you're trying to get anything from them. You really do feel like you want to pour into understanding them and supporting them. And so with business, it's like, if you're using your gifts, your time, your energy, your skills to support someone else and what they're doing, you want to make sure this is somebody you can kind of get behind and get excited about. And especially as a service provider, when so much of sustainability in business is about finding and keeping good clients, because it's easier to keep a client than to find, or it's cheaper to keep a client than to find another one. You want to be working with folks that you'd like to go the distance with and not feel like you're kind of trapped.
Yeah, that's not a good feeling when you're trapped with your clients.
Exactly.
So how do you help people show up as their best self and figure out what their strengths are and their value and how to serve best? Because that can be really, really tricky.
Well, it's funny. I am a personal development junkie, I got to tell you. I am obsessed with everything from Myers-Briggs to the Fascination Advantage to, I'm not too big on the Strengths Finder. I kind of have a basic understanding of, core strengths and all those things. But just any personality assessment.
Oh, my God,
personally,
me too.
yeah, that you could ever possibly take is something that I'm just always into. And even like the BuzzFeed quizzes.
Oh my God, yes. I'm such a quiz junkie.
Yes.
Show me the dumbest quiz ever on Facebook and I'm like, oh, let's click on that. Let's see.
Yes, let me take it. What kind of dog should I get to match my personality? So yeah, I mean, I love those things. And what I love is the opportunity to gain some insight about yourself that, you probably already know, or, maybe people have been telling you this since you were 7. But there's nothing like answering a couple of questions honestly and getting this really cool insight about who you are. So that's something I've always been really into. But over the years, as I've, been talking to entrepreneurs and, even through my own experience, I actually started to develop on some styles of expertise. And that's actually one of the projects I'm working on now. And how you serve best. So it's basically 4 expert styles, and I won't get too deep into it. But there is an assessment that I do with clients. They just sort of read these 4 different profiles. They pick their top 3. And it's really interesting how very, very accurate it is to helping them kind of understand sort of how they work, how their brain works, how they like to spend their time working, what their ideal work setup would be like and all of those things. And so we just kind of it helps to create this blueprint of what their business will look like, how they'll serve best, how they'll be working in their business. So not just, what are you offering, but what is your role in delivering value versus what maybe somebody else should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So all those cool insights come out of this one simple little assessment. Of course, there's this a conversation that we have to kind of tease all those things out. So basically, it starts with an assessment, but then I'll also have them, if they do have insight already about themselves and what their values and priorities are, we use all of that and combine it into this blueprint, basically, of what their business can look like, what their, ideal clients and stuff would look like and all those things.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Sounds fascinating. I like that.
Hopefully I'll be able to share more about it. I've been working on still working on validating the styles and, sort of testing them all out and seeing how they hold up, in different scenarios. But hopefully within the next year, if not sooner, I would love to finally sort of put it into a teachable framework and start to actually use it as a component of my business. Right now, it's still kind of informal, but yeah.
Oh, I like that. Well, we'll have to get you back on the show next year or whenever it is that you launch this, so that we can talk about that, because I love quizzes and diagnostic tools.
I would love that.
So, RM, the way I first discovered you, as you know, was via Twitter. I think it was Hallie Gray tweeted your blog post on how to clone your favorite client. And I was like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. So I checked it out and I read it and I was like, I need this woman on the show. I like her stuff. So tell us a little bit about this concept of how to clone your favorite client and what your top tips are as to how we can all do that. Because I think even if we are focusing on our ideal clients and on the people that are, we can help best and we're playing to our strengths, there's always that one person that we're like, oh, so much and I love working with you. So what are your top tips on how to clone your favorite client?
Yeah, well, of course, you're right. And so this whole premise was like, you've just got that one client who is everything. And I mean, everything from, personality to the work they do to, just how you feel when you work with them and how they treat you, of course, which is super important. You just feel like, God, if I could have 4 more people just like you, my life would be set, business would be amazing, and I'd be the happiest entrepreneur in the world. And it's something, I found myself saying this about, a few clients of mine, and I've had other people say, God, I want to just clone this client. So I've had other people saying, I really would just love, this is my favorite client. I really would just love to clone this person. Everything would be so much easier and sweeter and nicer in business. So the biggest thing, of course, the first thing you want to do is get really clear on what that means for you. Like, what makes this person your favorite? So the first tip is about sort of developing a profile of what essentially is your ideal. So everything from, what their business or life is like. So maybe you're not working with another business owner. Maybe you're working with, an individual, a professional, whomever, but just, understanding what their business or life is like right now, what they're working on or what you're working with them on, what their ultimate desired outcome is. So like, what are they coming to you for? What are they sort of valuing your expertise for? And then what challenges are they facing around trying to accomplish that desired outcome? And then you can, kind of refine your understanding of them by going into, if it is a company, what's the company size, or the industry they're in, or if it's just an individual, what's their lifestyle like? What are they about? What's their mission? And what are their values? So anything that will help you to understand them better and get a really clear, full picture of who they are, what it's like working with them, the things you love, so that you have a nice, healthy, vivid landscape of the kind of experience you want to replicate.
Now, would you ever recommend that people actually speak with their favorite client and say, hey, you are my favorite client. I would like to learn more about you because I want more of you, and like sit down and ask them these questions? Or do you kind of prefer that people take more of a kind of distanced approach to it? What do you recommend?
Well, I gotta tell you, if this is your favorite client, then you really should be able to tell them, by the way, you are my favorite client, and I want more of you. I think there's nothing, I mean, of course, if you're less comfortable with asking, if you feel like you're going to come off as a weirdo, then you can kind of take the rogue approach. And I'm sure that, in conversations that you have with this client, these are things that you learn about them already. So anything that you're not entirely sure about, I'm sure that there's information that you can pull from some of their profiles, or if you have sessions, actually record the strategy sessions that I have with clients, because it just helps me to be able to go back and pull out notes. So anytime I listen back, one, I'm reminded of how fabulous these people are, but then I'm able to pull out those little nuggets that remind me of why I adore them so much.
Yeah. Also, I use my client questionnaires, because before every session, they have a specific questionnaire that they have to fill out, and that is so valuable in terms of what they want to work on, what it is that they want to focus on, what their challenges are. That fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're doing an intake form, there's already going to be information you have about them. As you're going through those conversations, there's stuff that you're going to just remember, because they're your favorite. So you remember all the things about them. But what's really great about understanding these things about folks is that you care, right? And so you'll also want to start to shape their customer experience to be sweeter and better, or whatever. So these are things you can then use to, send them gifts, or, send them little notes that, that remind you of them, or, that lets them know you're thinking of them as more than just a client, but as a person who's part of your business, who's making this a really great experience for you. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I love that. So once you've got this super clear profile of who your favorite client is and why, and I think that's really important what you said at the beginning, what makes this person your favorite, how do you go about finding more of them?
So the next thing you want to do is to come up with a hit list.
And go in for the attack.
And hit list probably is not the best label there, but come up with a target list of potential clients who would fit that same profile. So that's sort of where the cloning part of the process begins. And so, you start to, I'm sure, like, as you are thinking about this person, other people start to come to mind. And some of them may even be your other clients. Maybe there's a portion of the work that you're doing with them that you'd like to modify to look more like the work you're doing with this favorite client. Or, maybe there's someone who's been in your orbit who is fabulous. You haven't worked with them yet, but, just understanding what you know about who your favorite client is, and seeing the similarities in this person. Maybe this is somebody you want to finally approach with an opportunity to maybe do a coffee chat or whatever, find out what they're needing, and seeing if what you have to offer would be a good fit for them.
I think that's really important what you said about how not just looking at who the ideal person is, but how you work with them. Because, of course, even if we have kind of set packages or ways that we work with people, there are little differences in how we work with each individual person, because different people need different things. So I think that's very important what you said about how you work with this ideal client, and how is that different from other clients that you might have.
Yeah. Well, and so that's the thing too about, what makes someone ideal versus not, versus not being ideal. One of the ways that I think as service providers we tend to struggle is that the way we work with clients really isn't aligned with our strengths and our personality and things like that. So they may be great clients, but you feel so bogged down by the work simply because it really doesn't support who you really are and how you to work with people and how you jam, in relationship with clients. So even just seeing what the difference is in that can make a huge difference in how you work with your other clients who maybe not be your favorites, but could be. And actually, that's a conversation that I had in another post about, the ones who aren't so ideal but have potential could become your best clients ever.
Yeah, I saw that post as well, and I think that's really, really interesting. So my next question was going to be, before you brought that up, and I knew the answer anyway, but I wanted you to share. So how do you recommend people look at maybe they're not so ideal clients and see what to do about that?
Yeah. So the biggest thing is, obviously starting with what is it about these people that make them worth it for you? And that may sound a little bit harsh, but this is life. Come on. Do they treat you well? That's always a really great start. How do you feel about the working relationship you have with these folks? And again, usually when you look at the clients you have and you think, oh, this isn't so bad, or, I don't mind working with them. Usually it's that there's just something that isn't quite great about it. So it's a good working relationship. They pay you on time. They respect you. They honor your agreements, all those great things. But maybe you're not so excited about, again, the way you're working with them, or maybe the focus of the work you're doing isn't completely aligned with what you're really passionate about. Maybe there's a better way you can serve them by sort of shifting the way you apply your expertise in relationship with them. So again, it's still sort of getting that, sort of getting a picture of what makes them not so ideal. What are some of their better qualities? And seeing where it is that you could sort of sweeten the relationship, or, where that sense of lack or, less than excitement is in that relationship, to see where you can evolve things or shift things. So, I always recommend starting with the people who are already paying you.
Yes.
Again, it's easier to make the clients you have happy than to try to find new ones. So,
yes. No more marketing required. Just figure out what works and do more of it.
Exactly. So your hit list or your target list could include people you're already working with or people already in your orbit. But then, then if you just start searching. So, LinkedIn is a really good way. Any place where people fill out profiles or bios, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, those are all cool ways to kind of find good people. And what's great is that you're finding people based on their personality and values and stuff as well, and not just what they're doing. So for example, if you want to work with clients who share similar interests so that you have more to talk about during your conversations than just the work, you can start finding folks who share similar interests. If you're a big Cats of Instagram person,
for example,
maybe one of your next great clients will come from the Cats of Instagram hashtag. I don't know. But yeah, compile your list, take note of anything, and then start going from there.
So how do you recommend then approaching these people that you've sourced from social media? Do you recommend just kind of cold calling them, approaching them and saying, "Hey, I like your style. I want to work with you," or what do you recommend?
Well, I'm not a huge fan of the cold sell, if you will. So I always say, if there's anybody that you ever admired that you wanted to just know, for example, you saw my post and you said, I want to talk to you.
Yeah.
I feel like that's always a really good place to start, because again, you're making it about them, not about getting their money.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's always just a really flattering way. I feel like anyone that I've worked with or have become, friends or comrades with, especially in this online business world, it's because there's just been a mutual respect and interest in one another as human beings. And it was very natural and organic for that to blossom into a working relationship, because I took an interest in them and they were interested in who I was. And so, just saying, hey, I love what you're doing. You're fantastic. Or following them, or, sharing something that they've put out into the world already. So the same way you'd make a buddy online, it would be pretty much the same way. And I understand that, like, one of the pressures about trying to build a business and all that is, you want to bring people into your funnel. You want to, you want to be filling that pipeline. But I feel like, especially when it comes to being an online business owner, a solopreneur, all those things, it really makes a lot of sense to focus on the organic connections. And it happens so much easier. Selling becomes so much easier because these people feel like you get them and you're concerned about helping them get what they want. You're not just, trying to sell them on something.
And you already know each other. So there's already a point of connection. There's stuff in
Exactly.
common. Yeah. The
Yes.
barriers have been broken down.
Exactly.
Or dissolved. That's probably a better word.
Precisely, Holly.
Great. So tell us, RM, do you have any women business mentors? Are there any women entrepreneurs who inspire you?
Oh man, I've got quite a few, but one person who's just been so lovely to me, and I finally had a chance to connect with her recently, is Beth Grant.
Oh, yes.
Of truthandconsciousness.com.
Mm-hmm.
And she's great. She, funny enough, a lot of her message and what she talks about sort of around marketing and this thing that she calls kind of clarity marketing really helps people to understand their own marketing archetype. And it's like, you don't have to follow any of the rules of selling or marketing. You just have to know who you are and how, what your natural persuasion power is, and learn how to really harness that to bring people into your orbit to, to deliver your message in a way that's going to resonate with the right folks and bring them into your pipeline. So yeah, I love everything that she does. And I mean, when I was going through my period of burnout, I found an article that she had written. I can't even remember the name of it now, but one of the quotes that stood out to me was, when you are out of alignment with your truth, you're in struggle.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love
that. I was like, oh my God, wait, what? Then of course I'm like all over her site, all over her blog, downloading her ebook, all those things. And I've just kind of been a fan ever since.
And so I imagine that you're familiar then with her marketing archetypes.
Oh yeah. Well, okay. So shameless plug here. I am desperately working towards becoming a certified ambassador. That's how.
Oh, yay.
So into her archetype.
So what archetype are you?
I am a conversational truth guide.
Me too.
Yeah. We rule. And what's so great about that is, all the things we thought we had to do to sell.
Yes.
Like, no, you just talk, use your voice.
Yep.
That is all you have to do.
Yeah.
So, no, it's funny because I'm all about not hustling.
I hate that
hard
word.
work is important. It's not, you're never not gonna work hard, but grinding it out and making things harder than it needs to be. I'm not about that.
Me neither.
And so I found out I didn't have to do what all these other folks are doing. So many things shifted in my business. Like, oh wait, I just need to have a conversation. Oh, okay, great. Yeah.
So much easier.
Oh,
great. So anyone else you'd like to mention?
Let's see. Gosh, I don't know if we'll have time to cover all of the folks, but so Unica Evans, who is she's a brand strategist, but she helps people with sort of building their platforms and creating content around teaching their expertise. And so however that's delivered, whether it's an ebook or a course or a workshop, she's really great at helping you to kind of turn your stuff into teachable stuff. And then packaging it and putting it out into the world. And what I love about her is that she's all about, the legacy of building a business. And, you're not just, making money is great, but you really are kind of leaving your mark on the world. And, something that you create now to teach can speak for you for years and years to come. And so I really just love that value that she puts on, on productizing, if you will, your expertise. It's not just about getting rich or building leveraged income or whatever, which is nice. It's about leaving a legacy.
Yep.
And she's probably one of my besties. She's really fantastic.
Good. So RM, how can other women entrepreneurs work with you?
Well, there are a few ways. But the easiest way to get started is to, one, come over to the blog and check out the cool conversations that are happening there. And if there's anything in particular that jumps out to you, particularly around positioning your expertise to attract more of those favorite clients, or just getting really clear on how you serve best and sort of realigning your business with that, you can hop on a free discovery call with me, and we can talk about exactly how that will look for you based on where you are now and where you're headed. And so the blog is rm-harrison.com/rmtruth.
Ooh, I like that.
Thank you. And then for the consult, it is same domain, of course, /free-consult. Super easy.
Perfect.
So that's the best way to connect with me through the site once you've taken a look at all the cool conversations happening there. Just drop me a note and we'll chat.
Great. And where else can people find you online? Do you have any favorite social networks that you hang out on?
So I'm a Twitter head as well. I love Twitter. You can find me at @HelloRMHarrison. Okay. And over on Instagram, it's at _HelloRMHarrison.
Okay, perfect.
Are you on Instagram, Holly?
Yeah, I am.
I'm going to go follow you.
Check me out. It's Instagram.com/Holly Wharton.
Holly Wharton. Perfect. I'm following you right now.
Oh, good. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I think that was really, really useful, and I'm really excited to get this out so other people can learn how to clone their favorite client.
Wonderful. And thank you so much again for having me. This was great.
You're welcome. And thank you for listening. And remember to visit hollywharton.com/143 for the show notes on this episode. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the Business Mindset Podcast with your host, Holly Wharton. You can find more information about today's episode, including links for topics that were discussed at hollywharton.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to head over to iTunes and leave a quick review of this podcast. It just takes a minute. Thank you.